7:07. Joan, would you like to lead us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sandy, roll call.
Trustee Rushain?
Here.
Trustee Levy? Here. Trustee Gould?
Here.
Trustee Weideman?
Here.
Trustee Faust?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Prior to this, the board met in closed session and no action was taken. We need approval of the minutes of the August 28th meeting. Anyone have any corrections? Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move that we approve the minutes.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Passes 4-0. Ms. Weideman abstains.
Okay, approval of the agenda and consent agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda and consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Okay. Communications. This portion of the agenda is available to the public to address the board on any issue that is not on the agenda. The maximum time allowed for any speaker is 3 minutes. LSEA? CSEA? People wishing to address the board? I have no cards. Okay. Correspondence. Okay. Board Superintendent Communications. Would you like to start us out, Eric? You happen to be at that end of the table. It's a good starting place.
Since we last met, I went to Cabrillo's back to school night, Valamar's back to school night, and Ocean Shore's back to school night. To the Pacific Collaborative, the LSEA, CSEA social event, which was really nice. And with Richard and my help, we came in second. We tried to get the district office into second place for getting breakfast, but failed. Which is probably just as well, because he and I would have taken no grief had we done it.
You're right.
I attended with Richard and Wendy the school district, Jefferson City of Pacifica subcommittee meeting, and just to let you know, we've added another group. We now have a representative for the North Coast County Water District, which is nice. It's the only forum where all the elected officials or representatives from the 4 bodies sit together and go over issues of mutual concern and interest to us. So especially Water District was real nice because we have that project of the recycled water, where they're supplying recycled water to our schools, Jeff's schools, city facilities, as well as others. So that was pretty cool. I also attended, and I sent you some information on this before, the district, San Mateo County Supervisor District Lines Committee, which is reorganizing or looking at moving San Mateo County supervisors into district elections. And there's been, I think there were, at last count, they had narrowed down to 24 different potential plans, down to about less than 5. It's still important that Pacificans stay paying attention to this because there's still a risk of them splitting Pacifica into 2 separate districts, which would really dilute the political power, which is already small enough, of Pacifica. As we all here over the county and over the hill, we all know is different. So I went to one meeting and spoke. They've asked for people, particularly elected officials, to write letters. I sent you the website. I don't know if we want to, as have Richard, do a letter from the board president, if the board all supports keeping Pacifica whole. There's a number of options that do that, but mainly I think we should be saying we want to keep Pacifica in one district and on the coast because our issues are the coast side issues. If people want to do that individually or collectively, but their last meeting is on the 24th, and then it's going to the Board of Supervisors on October 8th. So if we're going to put something in writing, you need to do it soon. That's all.
Wait, it should go to the committee?
Yeah. I believe I think Wendy I sent it and Wendy shared that with me.
Okay.
Matt?
So since our last meeting, we had the work study on test scores, and I went to the back-to-school nights at Ortega and Valamar, and today I attended a really brief meeting of the technology committee with Tina, Steve, and Nelson, and we'll have our first meeting next week.
Looks like I have been to Ocean and Shore meetings for the diversity leadership group and coordinators, and to the work study, and back to school night at Ocean Shore. And it seems like Siva and I were at a training together since the last time we had a meeting. SVMI meeting. We went to that. Very informative. Nice to sit in the room with the people who are writing the performance task for Smarter Balance. So if they're the ones that know what's going to be on it.
That was the work study. Thank you to everyone who put in a lot of work. It was, I think, very productive, even though it was long. But and then I was at Pacifica School Volunteers. I am on that board, and I am the representative from the PSD board on that committee. So, and then I had a chance to go to the IBL back to school night, and Donald West was gracious enough to show me around, so it was really fun to get the chance to talk to him, since last year I was so busy and didn't really get to say hi very much. So and I love back to school nights because I get to see all these people I never see and reconnect with folks, and got introduced as, yeah, I've known her since our babies were in diapers, and I'm thinking, There's still two. Anyway, so it was a nice evening, and everybody was having a good time.
Since we last met, I also did the work study, the Joint Articulation Committee meeting, went to the open houses, or back to school nights at Cabrillo and Ortega, went to the LSEA CSEA function, and I also attended the City Council meeting last Monday and got to meet our brand new city manager, who will be starting October 21st. She seems very nice, and I'm looking forward to working with her in the near future.
Along with the back-to-school nights, etc., I also had the opportunity to present at the Mothers Club. That's always fun. They always ask me, like, right at the beginning of the year, and they're all excited, and they don't have children in yet, but they want to know how it's all working. So I was able to talk a lot about the Common Core and how we're making that shift. And I presented at Get Healthy San Mateo County. They asked that I present the grant that we received last year, Playworks, which brought in $18,000 to our district. And so I made a presentation. Within that presentation, I talked about or demonstrated how it really was part of our strategic plan in building on our strategic plan and the coordinated school health model. So I received some feedback from one of the employees, or I guess he's like one of the directors or something, of Get Healthy San Mateo County, interested in learning more about how they might be able to support us in moving us forward in the model. So I'm really excited about that. You know, if I present and can get something out of it, I think that that's a great thing to do. I'm also now part of the Peninsula Partnership Leadership Council, and what that is, it's really a combination of businesses in San Mateo County, school leaders, school districts, about trying to pull together an initiative to support a goal. And the goal for the PPLC is to make sure all third graders are proficient in reading. And so as we're trying to develop and reach our goal, they're looking at attendance and family outreach, and then developing strategies and activities in which to support it. Carol Groom is an active member of that. I think it's Carol Groom, Ann Campbell, and Erica, I can't remember her last name, who sort of lead the charge for all of us. And so it's an exciting combination, and one of the funding sources could potentially be from Measure A to support student attendance and student achievement, but we also need to find some matching funds to go along with it. So we're working in relationship to fundraising as well. So that's an exciting, I think, initiative on the part of San Mateo County as a whole for us to move forward in supporting the education of our students. And I think, and then this Friday will be hopefully the announcement from the Silicon Valley Community Foundation in relationship to the grants that we have applied for. So I still have my fingers crossed that we will move forward in receiving that. And ours, again, is for professional development in Common Core mathematics.
Richard, can I piggyback onto something Wendy just said reminded me about third graders and literacy is, I shared the flyers with you, but I want to say publicly, the Rotary Club is doing a bowl-a-thon on October 27th at Seabowl. And one of they have 3 projects this year. One of them is buying dictionaries for all of our Pacifica third graders, as well as scholarship counseling for high school students and supporting Interact. So if anybody's interested and wants to put a team in or sponsor a lane, I should check with the Rotary Club because they're doing good things in the community and for our community as well. So
That was October 20th?
October 27th at Seabowl. Pre-registration by October 24th. Are you a bowler?
I'm not, but I have a very good story about that.
Okay.
So I hope you support that. In 2008, when I was board president, and Jim Leanidis very quickly told me that we would be cutting $1.1 million from our budget, I walked out of our meeting like somebody hit me between the eyes with a baseball bat going, oh my goodness. And I walked over to Ocean Shore School, and there was all this happiness going on in the library, and there was the Rotary Club handing out the dictionaries that they had bought. And this little third grader walks up to me and says, Joan, look, I found some word that he'd been looking for the dictionary. Isn't this great? And at that moment I thought, we got to do something about 1.1 million. So I always think of the Rotary Club. They were an inspiration to help kind of say this community can do great things if we work together. So.
District business, A, assessment updates.
All right, so this is an abbreviated version of the presentation. We went over the work study, but just an opportunity for the public to get a sense of how our students are performing on the different assessment tools that we use.
Maybe you're going to have to hit it.
We're having clicker issues.
That's okay. You click it. Ray, why don't you click it?
Okay. So
Just hit
the context in which we have this conversation, we are shifting to the state Common Core standards, and we have been shifting in that direction for the last year and more this year. With that move, the STAR tests are no longer aligned to the Common Core state standards, and they measure much different things than we were promised that the Smarter Balanced Assessment will in 2014-15. There is pending right now on Governor Brown's desk is AB 484, which would allow us not to participate in the traditional CSTs for this current school year and allow us to prepare for a Smarter Balanced Assessment without that hanging over us. So with that in mind, we are considered a program improvement year 3 district because we did not make our adequate yearly progress according to the No Child Left Behind statutes. That being said, we still do have all of our schools and the district as a whole performing above the level considered to be a high-achieving school. 800 or above is considered to be a high-achieving school or a high-achieving district. And this blue line shows our district API score compared to the state API, and then if you just take grades 2 through 6 for the state API, that's the gray bar, and the grade 7 and 8 API for the state is the gold bar. And we're outperforming all of those measures. Program Improvement Year 3 means that we will be sending a notification to our families that we are in program improvement and what we will be doing to improve our student performance. We will also reserve at least 10% of our Title I money for professional development. In addition, this year we will be told by the state what corrective action we need to take as a Year 3 program improvement district. Most districts have been told that they would have the sanction that's underlined there, which is institute new curriculum and professional development for staff, and that also can be interpreted, according to the county, as instituting new ways of using your current curriculum. So, using it to fidelity. And so we'll be developing a plan with the county, with their help, to take this corrective action once it's assigned to us. And we will notify our parents once we get that assigned sanction and what steps we'll be taking. So, with all that in mind about our shifting to the Common Core, we did remain flat in our math progress according to the CSTs, which measure the old standards. The next slide shows our students' performance in comparison to the county and the state. So the first bar is our performance. The blue and green portions of that bar are our students that performed advanced and proficient. And so you can see that in all grade levels, our blue and green bars are pretty equal to the county and outperforming the state. And you can see this continues for grades 5 through 7. In grade 8, you do see that we are underperforming a bit, and part of that can be attributed to the fact that we have a large number of students at Ingrid B. Lacey who have been taking a Common Core pilot class, and so the standards that they've been tested on do not align with what they've been learning. And this shows our proficiency rate by grade over time. So you can see that there hasn't been a lot of variation over the years through the grade levels. This year we did continue to show progress with students performing higher in 3rd grade than they did the year before. However, had dips in a lot of the other grade levels. 6th grade improved, 7th grade dipped. But, overall not great variation. And then this slide shows the fact that we do have an achievement gap. We have students in our different populations performing at rates under the average. Our socioeconomically disadvantaged students, our English learners, and our special education population, and our Latino students all performing below the average. And that has been a trend that hasn't changed much over time. Although you do see the special education group showing some sustained progress. This just shows those numbers because the last graph didn't have the numbers. So this is just because we want to be able to show what those numbers actually are. And it also shows the percent of our enrollment that fall into those categories. The MARS tasks are developed by some of the same people who will be developing the Smarter Balanced Assessments. And we've been involved in using the MARS assessments with our students for a number of years now. Last year and this year to come, the MARS tasks are aligned with the Common Core standards, and our students did not perform as well as the average consortium, the average person who took this test, the average students that took this test. And so we see that we do have some work to do in readying our students for the Common Core. What this shows is a percentage below or above the average that our students performed. So in second grade, we had 5% fewer students scoring proficient than the average for the consortium. Our students in Algebra 1, again, performed much worse because that class at Ingrid B. Lacey is aligned to the Common Core 8th grade standards, but they were tested on the Common Core Algebra 1 standards. And then our geometry students outperformed the consortium, so that was very nice to see. So in summary, we met Safe Harbor, which means that we met adequate yearly progress according to No Child Left Behind in 4 of our 8 areas in mathematics. So our Asian and Filipino students, 2 or more races, that subgroup, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and students with disabilities all improved enough in those subgroups to make Safe Harbor, but we did not make it in our district-wide Latino, white, and English learner populations. Overall, we've had little change in our CST while beginning to move to the Common Core standards. We are outperforming the county at most grade levels in the state with that lag at 8th grade. We do have a persistent achievement gap that we will look at ways we can address, and now that our MARS tasks are aligned with the Common Core, we can see that we need some more work in this area. So what we plan to do is this year we have given our teachers more tools to work with the Common Core standards. The K through 2 materials are aligned with Common Core, and the 3 through 6 materials, they've been given bridge materials that are aligned with the Common Core. We, for CPM, 7th grade, are using the bridge materials that are aligned, and 8th grade will be phasing out the California standards for the Common Core with next school year, not this school year. We have also some interventions that are being used at our various sites. Times Attack and Khan Academy are being used by students that need extra support, as well as the Envision online resources. Sunset Ridge is using ST Math with all of their students, and this is something we're investigating on whether or not to broaden this to a district-wide implementation, a district-wide intervention. And Math Navigator is an intervention they're using at Ingrid B. Lacey. So we did have a Math Institute. We had a one-day institute for our teachers at the end of last school year regarding the Common Core bridge materials and the Envision Math transition to the Common Core. We also have a coach this year, and we'll be working with SVMI, as we have in years past, bringing the math leads from the schools with the coach to those trainings. And the principals will attend 2 trainings with SVMI this year. We also sent our math coach and some leads to the Region 5 Math Network at San Clara County Office of Ed. And we'll be participating in some San Mateo County Office of Ed STEM trainings. And having the leads at the sites this year will help us make sure that there's ongoing professional development opportunities at the schools for their Wednesday early outs, and for ongoing communication between the district and each school. We have applied for a grant that we should know by the end of the week whether we got through Silicon Valley Community Foundation with our partners in the North County Math coalition, no. what is it?
Consortium.
Consortium. North County Math Consortium, which is the high school district and the feeder districts that include Pacifica. And so that if we get that grant, we will be able to work with David Foster and SVMI to have some professional development tailored directly for our district and for our consortium, so that our students have hopefully a seamless transition to the Common Core, as well as being prepared for transitioning to our high school district. Also, we will be administering some performance-based assessments throughout the year and monitoring how our students are performing on those, as well as the end-of-unit tests that go with the curriculum we're using. And students in middle school, some of the students will be taking diagnostic tests so that we can look at their placement and look at their needs. We also will be focusing on implementing the Common Core mathematical practices at all grade levels and supporting the teachers with the new materials and technology that we'll be getting, and making sure that when we do give those formative assessments that the teachers have time to look at them in collaboration with each other and make a plan for how to address the needs that these assessments show them in the students. Any questions about math before I move on to language arts? Okay. So in language arts, you see that our scores dipped slightly, but overall it's pretty flat performance as we saw in math. Again, this slide shows the comparison with the county and the state, and you can see that our students perform as well as their peers in these, as well, if not better, than their peers in these groups. For the grade level comparison over time, you see that, again, there's not a dramatic rise or drop. We did see that burst of proficiency last year in 5th grade. But other than that, it's, we see some steady progress in 3rd grade and pretty much status quo in the other grades. In ELA, we do see a achievement gap as well in this group. The piece that we are looking very closely at, and as you can see the green line near the bottom for our English learners, in making sure that we can support them as we transition to the Common Core and as the demands become more. Here's the numbers again, just because the last graph didn't have them on there. In English language arts, we made Safe Harbor in only one of the 8 groups, which was our socioeconomically disadvantaged students. We did see an improvement in the proficiency rates in that group, enough to meet the adequate yearly progress for No Child Left Behind, but none of the other subgroups made that kind of progress. We did see a decline in CST scores at most grade levels, and most are near or still above the 2011 levels. And this was pretty consistent with the state and the county. Most schools did see declining performance this year. As everyone is moving to the Common Core, it's just we're seeing less alignment with what the test is testing and what our students are spending time on. I think everything else on here I already said. So what we'll be doing this year to improve our students' English language arts proficiency, maybe not necessarily CST proficiency, but just making sure they're readers and writers, is we are continuing with our Readers and Writers Workshops units of study and our leveled readers for all students. For students who need extra support, we have our level literacy intervention, and we've had a number of teachers trained in this recently, and so we should see a wider implementation of this for this current school year. We had the materials available, I think, mid-year last year, but not a lot of people trained in it yet. So, and then we are just now partnering, you just approved the contract with Imagine Learning, so that we can bring some support to our newer English, our students who are new to the United States that are English learners. This is a program that's designed to help them learn English quickly because it has instruction in their native language. So it has a number, 20 some odd languages that it can instruct students in, especially for those students that are in the country 12 months or less. That's really important in moving them quickly. So we're excited about that. We are using assessments to guide our instruction, and with that we have the CAMS assessments, which are pre-literacy assessments for kindergarten students, our DRA2 for grades K through 3, which is a deep diagnostic of reading comprehension and fluency. And then for grades 4 through 7, we are transitioning to the Teachers College Reading and Writing Project assessments. We also have developed our own record of reading that can be used grades 1 through 5. That gives teachers a snapshot. It's a quicker assessment that gives them a lot of the information that a DRA2 would contain in a quicker format, so that hopefully they'll use it more often. And then running records, all of our teachers know how to continue providing students with that and allow them to move through the reading levels. We will be continuing with Teachers College Professional Development this year. Each teacher will participate in 2 3-day visits throughout the year, so 6 days of professional development at the school sites. We have our coaches who have gone to New York and will be going again for the Coaching Institute. We have Teachers College is coming here, not just here to our district, but they are having a 1-day workshop in San Francisco or South San Francisco, I'm not sure, next month, and we're sending a number of teachers to that. And then, of course, we'll be focused on balanced literacy with a little bit more focus this year on the writing workshop. As our teachers are becoming more proficient with the reading workshop, we've talked with Teachers College and we're ready to give some more instruction in the writing workshop arena. We are working to improve our support for struggling learners through the LLI program, and every time we give a district-wide assessment, we will have time for teachers to reflect and collaborate over the results. Any questions on language arts? And then for physical fitness, we have seen a steady decline in the past few years in our students' performance in physical fitness, with the exception of last year. So for 2012-13 school year, that's the gold bar, you see that our results did improve for the first time in recent years. And the state has not released their 2013 data yet, but I did put their 2012 data up there to show you where our students are compared to the state. This one's a little small to see, but the green bar is the 2013. The top chart is the 5th grade physical fitness test. Kids are only tested in grades 5 and grade 7 for physical fitness. And you can see that we've improved in most areas. The green bar is higher than the blue bar in most areas in both grade levels. Flexibility declined a little bit in 7th grade, and we see that trunk strength is also something we struggle to improve with. And this chart shows students meeting their healthy fitness zone areas. That's what HFZ is. So on that previous chart, if a student is is considered fit in 4 of 6 areas, then they are considered to be meeting their healthy fitness zone. So that would be the blue bar combined with the green bar combined with the gold bar. So those are all kids that are meeting their healthy fitness zone, and you can see that in 2013 the number of students in the blue and green has improved. So that's what we want to be seeing. So overall, great improvement, and we did have our PE committee meet last year, and so I'm really excited to see the 13-14 results, because we now do have an established curriculum by grade level. I've been talking with principals and teachers about the implementation so far this year, and I haven't heard anything but positive information. All the schools looked through their equipment, compared it to the equipment list that the committee put together, ordered what they needed. So all the schools have what they need to do a full-blown PE program, grades K through 8. And then in addition, we have instructors for all 6th through 8th grade students. So I think things are moving forward in that. I think that's the end of the second time you're hearing all this information. Any questions, comments?
Thank you.
We did spend 2 hours on this.
Yes, I know.
A week ago. Could you go over, because I was trying to call it up and I couldn't find it, the latest article on the current status of the federal Department of Education and the state, and how that might affect us with the testing?
Right. So the latest article I saw had Torlakson saying we may be out of compliance with the federal government for a year, and that's fine. That's okay with us.
What about Title I?
Yeah.
Does that have a budget impact?
Right. I don't know. So the first article that I shared with the principals that day, Wendy, that I gave with you, it said that there was no answer to that question. He refused, Arnie Duncan refused to answer that question, whether there was going to be a fiscal impact, and we still haven't heard any different about that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So currently, they could be under discussion. I think Arnie Duncan is taking a different, he came out pretty strong at the beginning that should we not do a test that.
He is the director.
Federal government.
Right,
yeah.
Secretary of Education.
Right. And now it's my understanding that there could be conversation with the state should the bill pass, and I think
It's already passed. It's sitting on Governor Brown's desk.
Right.
waiting to be signed. It hasn't been signed
He has to
yet.
sign it by October 10th.
Right. So that's kind of where we are, and we're waiting.
But also theoretically, any loss of Title I could be at least partially offset by the monies that the state will save by not giving the STAR test.
As long as they pass it down.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
I was just going to say that I
Always
think the
the
chances that the Department of Education will withhold money for poor kids is effectively zero. I mean, if you think about what kind of fabulous PR that would make. Like, I can't really see them withholding Title I funds. What I did hear is the idea that there's some testing money that they set, and that they might say, well, if you're not testing, we'll withhold the testing money, but that's a fairly minimal amount, and it seems like, as you're saying, that might wind up being a wash anyway, because the state would save money by not doing the test anyway. So that might be a worst case scenario, but.
Andre?
I'm for one like Yahoo, and no more CST reports, with the caveat that at the meeting next year this time, that we still have some kind of a report on how our students are doing. And it won't be CST, and it probably won't be MAP yet, because who knows what's going on with that, but DRAs, something, so that because we still need to have the information that our students are progressing, Mars, whatever we have, we'll still want to hold you to another report next year. Just won't say
Looking
CST.
forward to it.
Well, that's interesting you should say that, because I'm just having a flashback to a CSBA workshop I went to. And that's when they did their curriculum update, they had their MARs and their CAMs and their CSTs and their, you know, it was really interesting to see how it was a more comprehensive picture of student learning than just the CSTs.
Yeah. Was it a certain district who was?
Oh, yes, but if you ask me to bring, you know.
The difficulty for our district is just, you see our testing department sitting right there. And so, yeah, unfortunately, you know, it'd be great to be able to run reports. We tried using a canned assessment program, and it just doesn't work for us. So we're still looking, but with the SVCF grant, San Mateo County Office of Ed has also applied for a grant called, to develop kind of an analytics center that we would like to be part of as well. And that is really to help us do benchmarking and looking at formative assessments in a more robust manner to help teachers really make decisions on how to support students.
All right. 10B, student enrollment procedures update.
Well, I'm happy to report, I believe we had a very smooth opening. I think we saw a lot of smiling faces, a lot of happy,
We're doing the student enrollment.
oh, sorry. I thought it was my turn.
Not yet.
Beverly thought she was staying the whole night.
Are you sure you don't want me to go first?
But thank you, because that gave me time to go to the correct screen. Okay, so tonight we are proposing some clarifying points to our student enrollment procedures. I want to give you an update. The process I'd like to use is to start with the first clarifying item and then walk the board through the procedural handout. I did give a hard copy up there if you want a hard copy to look at. But the best news of all is that we're very fortunate to have Beverly DeSpiva in the audience tonight. Wonderful. Beverly will give us a historical perspective as well as clarify questions if we have any. Okay, so I'd like to start on page 4, the handout of the enrollment procedures. And on page 4, there is clarifying update for change of address. So this is, any questions? Okay, I think we're going to go right through this. Page 7, we have some clarifications under kindergarten and eligibility. Any questions on that? Page 8, we have some clarifications under transitional kindergarten, kindergarten sibling priority, and kindergarten children of district employees. And then page 9, we have clarification on transitional kindergarten eligibility. Any questions on that? Okay. And then mid-year kindergarten is the next item, starting on page 9. And we have the caveat in the board memo that this year, with mid-year kindergarten, because we've implemented transitional kindergarten, we have noticed that there is a decline in the demand for mid-year K, so much to the point that last school year, we did not have enough enrollment to implement mid-year K. So the recommendation is that this year, we do not have mid-year K, especially being that we have opened up a second transitional K program on one of our other campuses. Any questions on that? Okay.
So this is just a information item.
Unless there's something in here. The other thing that I believe we added was just the alternative.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna. So the final part in conclusion to the enrollment procedures handout is we have added alternative instruction options, which includes home and hospital instruction, independent study, short-term, and then long-term, specifically homeschool program. And the purpose of putting this into the document is so that our parent community knows what other alternative options to education that is out there for their children. Any questions on that last part?
Questions, comments?
Not on the last part, but on page 4, and near the top of the page when you're talking about the K-5 and the 6-8 and the single path, dual path school in that little box right there. Do we need to rethink what we're writing about 6-8 in the single path school? Because it seems like our 6-8 at our K-8s is changing. Kind of the philosophy may be changing a little bit. And you make a decision about a K-8 with your, you make a 9-year decision when you enroll that kid in a K-8 or
That's something that's kind of ebbed and flowed over the years. Some years you'll have a lot of kids decide that they want to go over to IBL, and some years they'll
But I think
stay put.
we're actually changing kind of I don't think we have generalists so much in the K-8 and the 6-8. I think we're getting more specialists.
So one of the things that we might be able to do is have the K-8 principals take a look at that and maybe give a stab as to, I think they're doing much more of like a block type scheduling where teachers will take 2 subject areas and focus on that, so they get a little bit of changing of classrooms, but not the 6-period day. So maybe we can kind of change it to.
Right. I think most of the K-8s
are doing that. Okay, thank you.
And thank you. This has been a very long process.
Yes.
And I know a lot of work, and so really thank you, Beverly, for, this represents 10 years worth of work.
It's alive, it changes.
Right.
Well, and also, it really does, when we first started this process, it was kindergarten lottery and 6th grade lottery, and I kept asking, what about the other grades?
Right.
And so now to have also the other education alternatives besides just the K-8s included, it's a very comprehensive document, so thank you.
Okay, now it's your turn.
Okay,
and then-
Oh, sorry.
I have a question. On page 6, this isn't a change, so it's an existing policy, and I just wondered what the thinking was behind it. On the wait list order, the bottom of page 6. As children retained at their current school, children of full-time district employees, siblings of students presently enrolled in school, residents of the district who don't have siblings, and out-of-district students.
Well, I think that, if I could speak to that kind of goes back to the fact that a lot of our teachers have been very loyal to us and continue to stay with us, teachers and staff, and where they could probably be making $10,000 more for driving over the hill, and that is one of the few perks that we have been able to offer them.
And it's minimal. I mean,
Right.
it's been
Yeah,
one
I don't
or
think it's
2
that many
children
kids.
a year. I don't even know if we had any in the last couple of years. A few.
Maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you do, are you going to talk about mid-year kindergarten?
He-
Oh, he was
I
in
pretty
it.
much
rolled it all
I rolled it all into
Okay.
one, but I will just, for practical purposes, I'm going to put it up there. Is there any other discussion on that? Can I answer any questions about the thought process on that? Okay, thank you.
So just to clarify, we will not be offering mid-year this year.
Correct.
And so are we going to delete that from our enrollment?
Correct.
Thank you. So it's my turn now.
Okay, to report on opening of school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yes.
Thank you.
You can leave now.
Yeah. You know, I
We won't
looked
even
at my
like make it noticeable or anything that you're leaving.
She gave me most of the information for this report too. She must have said, get credit. So, again, we had a very smooth opening, I perceive. Staff worked so hard to get everything ready for our new year. We have currently about 44 new students to our enrollment, so I'm really excited about that. But the interesting thing is they're not coming in kindergarten, they're just kind of growing throughout the grade levels. So at least we're up, but it's not showing like a demographic trend of us growing as a district over time. We are 100% compliant in our Tdap immunization, so I really have to thank our schools in making sure that those students we are compliant with that. Staffing in our classroom assignments, we're slightly below, which is a good thing. Our teacher to student ratio, for example, 1 to 23 in TK kindergarten, where we could be 1 to 24. So, you know, we're at a good ratio there. We did have to transition one of our kindergartens into a TKK class because we were receiving more TK requests than we had space, or we are projecting we might need a few more spaces. For our school buildings, the facilities and maintenance crew worked very hard over the summer. We got some of our projects complete, for example, added more of the play structures, and today we were at LMEC and we got to see the new play structure that was put in place for our pre-Ks who are over there. It's just a beautiful structure, so if you ever have a chance, and it's very low, just for the little ones, just perfect. We had our welcome to Pacifica, this time held at IBL because Sanchez Art Center was not available to us. So again, we have to thank our staffs for preparing our multi-purpose room. We had a lot of representatives. All of our schools were there with their PTOs. We had Pacifica school volunteers. The Library Foundation was there. And this is all due for the generosity of the Pacifica Education Foundation, who sponsors this for us. So they really help us put this together. We had about 60 new parents, 60 new families to our who attended, along with 60 children, and I think, Joan, you supported us in daycare out in the out in the field there, or in the play area there. So we really appreciate that. It takes us all to make it work, and many of the board members were able to attend. The trustees were able to attend, so I hope you found it to be a pretty exciting time for our new families to come. Unfortunately, Richard had to work. Any questions or thoughts?
Just want to say thank you to everybody who made that run so well. Like, I know it took everybody, and it really was very impressive to see.
Thank you.
Okay. 10E, approval of unaudited actuals for fiscal year 2012-13.
Okay, this is the report of our, how we ended the school year for 2012-13. And when we adopted the budget for this year, we had presented at that time an estimated actual, and that was in June. And so through the summer, we've finished closing the books and gotten everything booked, and these are the final figures, which our auditors are going to be reviewing and then presenting an audit report to the board in January. So the district does continue to have a large ending fund balance. We've had a larger ending fund balance in anticipation of budget cuts, and things are starting to turn now. So the one thing that I wanted to point out too about that large ending fund balance is that we still have to face the state deferrals. Fortunately, with Proposition 30 passage, the state didn't owe us as much money on June 30th, but they still owed us over $4 million. So the books are a little deceiving because we're counting $4 million of revenue and spending it on payroll and everything that we don't actually have until July, August, September. It's getting better, it's $2 million less than what they owed us last year, but that is part of the reason why we have carried a large ending fund balance, because otherwise you would be in a negative certification if you were not able to pay all the bills as of June 30th. So that's one thing that I wanted to point out, but it is getting better. And then the page that Ray showed right now is a detail of our ending fund balance, the different accounts where the funds are. So our reserve for economic uncertainty is listed there. We do have some funds set aside for a math adoption, and that's what's in the old program, Instructional Materials Funding Realignment Program. That's some textbook money that wasn't spent last year, and so they've been planning on setting some funds aside so that we can adopt the math program, because if you remember, when you do an adoption, it's closer to $400,000 or $500,000, and a math adoption is very expensive. So it's good that we're able to start setting some funds aside. And then the school sites, the last few years have been very frugal with their funds, and they've been carrying funds over, and that's partially just due to being conservative, and also because some of the things that they order, they don't get received until the summer, and so we don't actually pay the bill until July. So they have some carryover there that they spend over the summer. And then the unallocated portion is $1.2 million on the unrestricted side. And then on the restricted side, we have higher parcel tax carryover. The parcel tax funds came in a little bit higher than what we anticipated. And then we'll do a formal parcel tax report so you can see the detail. But it's really, we spent the funds on teacher's salary, coaching, a little bit on the geometry program, and the counseling program. And some of our numbers came in a little bit less than anticipated, so we'll be able to carry funds over for parcel tax, which is really good. And then Sunset Ridge has a special program where they carry over MOF funds from year to year, and that is the fund that they actually have been using to pay for the vice principal this year. A portion of the vice principal comes out of that. And then the Economic Impact, which is our English language learner program, has a carryover balance, and it falls under the old rules. With the new local control funding formula, this funding will continue to be held for English language learner students. And there is a plan Tina's formulating a plan on how to spend those funds. The maintenance account has a carryover, and that's some of the things that they ordered, and some of the services were not paid for until summertime. So they're spending those funds. And then lottery came in higher than we anticipated, so we do have carryover there, and that's strictly for instructional books and textbooks and supplies. And then there's some other state carryover, and then some of the site carryovers. So when you look at the estimated actuals that we reviewed in June, and then you compare it here, the unrestricted general fund was about $320,000 higher, which is, typically in a year you always end up with a little bit more than you anticipate. The main reason for this is due to higher lottery revenues and school site carryovers, and then special education program. That's one program that we really don't close out until August, and part of that is because the revenues and expenditures that we get from the county are not finalized until the end of August, and we're really working with the county now on getting those figures sooner so that we can have more accurate, numbers for you at year end. But it came out positive that our revenues were higher than what we projected, and it's mostly because of this program called the high cost pool. It's an excess for students that cost over a certain dollar amount. We don't really budget those funds until all the expenses are done, and then we know what it is, and we submit the report to the county, and then they fund us for that. So that's one of those things that usually does come out as a positive because we don't budget it. Other than that, I think that's it. We're going to continue to monitor cash flow. We didn't need to borrow funds. We usually do a loan on July 1st, and we didn't need to borrow funds on July 1st. But we will likely come back to the board in April to borrow funds to cover May through June again, because unless the state reduces the amount that they owe us, because they're not paying us until July and August. So I don't know if people have questions. Joan?
Do we need to go see Jerry again?
Well, it's gotten better, and I think, hopefully as the local control funding formula kicks in.
I'm not so
Yeah.
worried about the local control, I'm worried about the ERAF triple flip issue if we are continuing to have deferrals.
He's paying them down.
Mhm.
He's paying them down.
It went from 6 million to 4 million for us. That's substantial.
And I'm thinking, of course, we have to watch and see, but I'm thinking the plan, especially with Prop $30, would be to pay down the deferrals. I think that's first and foremost part of their plan. So that would be very helpful to us.
Yeah, they did create what's called the EPA Education Protection Account. So the Prop 30 money was put in a separate account, and that's how they were able to pay down the deferrals this year, is they're separating the funds.
So
Okay.
we'll keep you posted.
Anyone else? Or do you have another?
Well, I had another, and that was about the county expenditures. Is this the first time we haven't gotten accurate special education stuff, or that we haven't been able to close out?
Historically, every year, we don't have the final special education amounts from the county until late August. Now, the expenditures were very close,
Okay.
so they weren't off. They've done a really good job of being conservative in their estimates, where there was one year where we owed a lot of money. This year, their estimates were very close. It was the revenues where we under-budgeted revenues, because we were being very conservative
Okay.
and not budgeting revenues until we were certain about them. But there is talk in the county about forming a little task force to see how can we get those numbers sooner than the end of August, because really this report is due on September 15th, and given that we didn't get the numbers till the end of August, we couldn't bring it to you until this board meeting.
Right,
So-
but they have tightened up since the last fiasco we had.
Yes, the numbers are closer. They're just not any timelier.
I'm sorry, I have post-traumatic syndrome when, actually, to be quite honest, the county almost put another district in AB 1200 because their estimates were so bad. And that resulted in the resignation of the county superintendent, retirement of the county superintendent and resignation of their chief financial officer. So when I saw this delay, I kind of went, whoop.
Yeah, so just to clarify, the numbers are closer, it's just not timely. And
Okay.
we would like to get them in a more timely fashion.
Okay. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Questions? Okay, do we have a motion to accept the unaudited actuals?
I motion that we approve the unaudited actuals for fiscal year 2012-13.
Second.
All in favor?
Passes 5-0.
Okay. Adoption of GAN limit resolution.
Okay, the GAN limit goes back to 1979, when Paul Gann established the GAN, which is a spending limit, and it was part of Proposition 98, requires that each school district recalculate their appropriations each year to make sure that they're not overspending. And so, based on our calculations, this, Pacifica School District is within our spending limits, and so there's a resolution attached. The details, the numbers are there on the bottom of this screen, and then the resolution attached indicates that we have met all the criteria for the GAN. We've done the postings, and we're within our spending limit.
Okay. Questions, comments? We have a motion?
I move we approve the resolution for adopting the GAN limit.
Okay. All in favor?
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Okay. Change of SIP day from April 21st to March 31st.
Okay, so the change of this professional development date is due to getting recent information from Silicon Valley Math Initiative, SVMI. And they are informing us that our MARS tasks need to be scored prior to the April 21st professional development date that we have set currently on the calendar. We do use this professional development date to score the tasks. So we would like to switch it to March 31st. With that being said, we did have a discussion with our site principals who did have discussions with their staffs, brought us back the feedback, and we also had discussion with LSEA and CSEA, who agree that March 31st would be an appropriate date to change from April 21st.
Okay. Questions?
So I have a question. So once our calendar's adopted, it's no longer a negotiated item? The board can just change it?
Yes,
As long as they don't object.
as long as they don't object.
Okay.
Wasn't it true that we can adopt the calendar without, I don't think, I think because that was a discussion before, is
Yeah.
that the board can adopt the calendar without negotiating
What's-
it.
No, we can
It's-
set the first
we can-
day
We can
of
only set the
school,
first day.
Right,
but the calendar's negotiated.
right, we can only adopt if they don't present, right? But as long as they,
Yeah, no, I
This
just, I
has
was
been
just,
run by them.
yeah, I was just curious. I always like to understand the rules of the game.
they
Yeah, they-
change.
Yeah, they didn't have any objections.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
I'll move that we approve the change to zip day.
Second.
All in favor?
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Can we just
Okay.
make a real outreach to let parents know?
Yeah.
Because the organized parents out there write everything on their calendars.
Yes.
They figure out dates and all that stuff.
We'll get the new, we could probably even put change of sick date.
But I mean, like in the.
Right, maybe you can go through
Newsletter.
the principal's
Newsletters,
Yeah.
letters or stuff like that,
Yeah.
just so that, because parents never look at the calendar, they just
Right.
read that at this point.
Okay, board committees, board bylaws 9130.
Within the, our response to the grand jury, one of the recommendations or things that we said that we might be able to do was to bring back the bond review committee, oversight committee, and we received information regarding the the Citizens Oversight Committee that needs to have some additional changes made to it, which we're needing to establish, which would be another standing committee by the board. So my recommendation is to wait to see. I think that the policies will be coming out, or the information will be coming out for January 2014 implementation. Wait to see what the regulations are and see if we could include the GO or the GO bonds oversight as well, which would be the CABs, the capital appreciation bonds. So instead of having several standing committees, this one, I think, the Citizens Oversight Committee could be that vehicle for the oversight of our GO bonds.
And that would replace our audit review committee? And
Well-
then it would become a standing committee or something?
Yes, well, it would be, right.
So the audit review committee would not be a
Become the-
liaison, it would be a standing committee with some other stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Called the Citizens Oversight Committee. Make sense? So I'd like to just wait and see, I'd like to see the more specifics on it, and then we can bring it back for a change.
So in December, when we decide what committees we're on, that'll just sort of be an open one for a little later. Okay.
Okay? Because we have to probably have, open it up for,
It's kind of like what we do with the parcel tax.
Exactly.
Probably.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do that process.
Okay, future agenda items.
Can you put that with Sandy's stuff?
Go with Sandy's stuff.
Oh, okay. Okay. So our next meeting will be what? October 9th. And then did we want to add?
And we do want to add to the calendar a regular board meeting next week. It'll be-
25th?
Correct, the 25th.
That's closed session though, right?
So it will be, the normal opening and closing comments for public, and 2 hours closed session for evaluation, update, and completion.
And then might I add a little, negotiations, just? Okay. And I think that's it. We have our winter band concerts listed, although, we don't necessarily assign board representatives to attend those. We wanted you to be able to note when those winter concerts are, should you be able to attend.
On the 1023 work study,
Mhm.
is that going to be when the principals each
Yes.
review their plan? I'm sorry, I just have to budget my reading time.
Okay. Yes, that will be the site plan, plus we would like to do hopefully have information, or we will give you what we know about LCFF and the LCAP, the local control funding formula, and the local control accountability plan.
Oh, yeah.
That goes along with the local control funding formula. And then I'd also like to add, it depends if it's getting too dense, but probably add the Common Core spending or implementation plan, because there needs to be a spending plan attached to that as well. So I think that, again, so you could all start to see the big picture of how it all kind of works. So, but yes, that's the site plan.
Okay, I will block more reading time for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, anyone have anything else? Adjourned at 8:18.
Half hour
I think you should take this, you're getting this out nice and early.